Hi, I'm Joyce and welcome to the barn. It's springtime in Appalachia. And I want to ask you, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Today I'm showing you my babies. These are Buff Orpingtons. They are a breed that is not exactly endangered, but it's on the watch list. They're like vegetables, there are heritage breeds of poultry. Dominickers, something that around here in the Appalachians we have grown for years. Dominickers is on the watch list. The Buff Orpington came to America in about 1890. They're known as a dual-purpose chicken. They will lay eggs that will be brown in about 8 to 10 weeks. You're looking at a three-week-year-old pullet. No roosters needed. You do not have to have a rooster to have eggs. You have to have a rooster if you want to have baby chicks, but not to have eggs. So this is all my girls. The Buff Orpington are known as a very quiet and sweet chicken, as you can see. They're not much on being picked up, but they love sitting in my lap and they love perching. They will go out into the chicken house in about 2 more weeks. They can be used as a broiler, which we're not going to do. They can be used as a broiler at about 10 weeks. They'll start laying in about, 8 to 10 more weeks, maybe, if we're lucky. They are what they call a dual-purpose breed, in that they are a layer, and you can eat them, but we're not going to eat them unless they slack off. If they start slacking off and not laying, they're chicken and dumplings. So welcome to Friends Drift In, episode 13, season 2. Share the giggles.
For old-fashioned recipes and your gardening needs, while sipping on Kentucky bourbon, you sit right back in your big red hat. We're taking rural back from the urban. Listen to the stories where Kentucky proud. Share the giggles with all of your friends. You're all tuned in to Friends Drift In.
Hi, we're down in the kitchen at Friends Drift In, episode 13, and we're talking eggs. We talked about the Buff Orpington chicken, which is what I'm growing this year, and you'll be seeing them throughout the season. They lay a brown egg, and they'll come to that in about, 8 to 10 weeks, and they'll lay for about 2 years. Now, a lot of people ask me, they say, Joyce, what's the difference between a brown egg and a white egg? It's just the breed of the chicken. There's no difference in the flavor, there's no difference in anything except the color of the outside. Each breed has different colors that they lay. However, there is a difference between a duck egg here and a chicken egg. You can see they're a lot bigger. These duck eggs are courtesy of Kathy Ray Meyer at Mother of a Hubbard, and I surely appreciate her loaning me a couple of eggs for demonstrations today. So what we're going to be talking about is the perfect way to boil an egg. And that sounds kind of silly because most people know how, but there is a trick. The thing that you need to do is put your eggs in a pan with about 1 inch of water over the top. You want to bring them up to a heavy boil. And once they get boiling, what they're just about doing right now, as you can see in the back, when they get to a rolling boil, I'm going to let them go just maybe another minute. Then you want to take them off, immediately set them to the side, let them sit for 12 minutes. That's going to give you the perfect egg. Today I'm going to work on some garnishes because we're going to do some deviled eggs and we're going to do some curried eggs. Now, a lot of people in Pike County don't know what a ramp is, and it's about the end of the season. These are kind of a little sorry. But a ramp is a wild leek. They grow out in the woods underneath the hardwoods. You can get seeds. The seeds are about the size of an onion seed. It takes about 18 months to mature. They call them the stinkies. And they call them the stinkies because if you eat them, you're going to smell bad. Lisa Morris over on Maynard Hill used to teach over in West Virginia. And in West Virginia, ramps are king. And in the spring, after the kids had been eating the ramps, they would come into her classroom, and you know it. There wasn't much air conditioning in that school. So what she did to combat the pungent odor of the ramps via the kids was she made the kids sit outside with their desk right next to the window. Can you imagine? Ramps are a native plant. They're selling, forget this, they're selling for $16 a pound. It is well worth your time if you're into growing ramps or growing farming to grow you some ramps, because you could make your money really quick, take them into Lexington and selling them to chefs. They're considered a delicacy. If you follow on Twitter, when ramp season is going on, you'll see the hashtag ramps from all the chefs, and they gloat. They think that they have just found the biggest spring treasure ever. Now I'm going to fry these up in just a little bit of bacon grease. And you know that in Appalachia it's got to be done in a cast iron skillet. And hear that sizzle? Don't I love it? Won't take but a second to get that fried up. You can see my eggs have about come to a boil. I'm going to set them off. They'll set for 12 minutes. And we'll just, that's all I'm going to do to those ramps, just to get them kind of browned up. I'm going to set them off the heat, and I should have had a pot holder over here, but I didn't. Dina's not with me today, but that's all right. The eggs, it's entertaining time. And eggs are a simple way to give a lot of impact for no money. Eggs are fairly well expensive. Once you boil your eggs, you plunge them in cold water, and then you peel them. Now, if you've done this right, if you've waited just the 12 minutes and you've done this right, now Jeremy Ashby would fuss at me because he would say you only pop them on the fat end, but I pop them on both ends. If you've done this right, you start peeling. And yeah, of course it's not going to be pretty because y'all are watching me. But you peel the egg from the bottom, and on a good day it will come out pretty and slick like that and not break because I'm rushing. But what I really wanted to show you, and I'm just going to go right ahead and do that. This is how you know if you've done your eggs right. You should not have that green circle around there. I call that the greeny meanie. No green circle, because that indicates that you've cooked into the sulfur. So what you want is a really fluffy yellow and a white. And what you do when you're making either deviled eggs, or whether you're making a curried egg salad, which I'm going to do next, is you would either, for deviled eggs, you pull out the center, and you just take a fork and no big deal, we just mash it up. And my fork has disappeared. Everything always disappears when Dina's not here. Here we go. You just kind of mash it up. Now traditionally, when you're doing deviled eggs, you would just add a little bit of mayonnaise and maybe some mustard. But today I'm going to try a few things that are a little bit different. So I've cooked up a dozen eggs or so back here in the back. And we're going to do a curried salad. Now curry is a really interesting thing. It's considered a kind of an Indian spice. Now normal curry has tumeric, which is the stuff that makes bread and butter pickles yellow. Coriander, which is the dried component of cilantro. You all eat a lot of cilantro when you're doing your Latin foods. Cumin. Cumin is what you use in chili powder. And then we can get really fancy. This is from Penzeys, and it is a little bit fancier. It's called Maharaja curry powder. But it has cardamom, fenugreek, fenugreek, ginger, nutmeg, fennel, cinnamon, white pepper, cloves, saffron, and cayenne pepper. Now you can get plain old curry powder at the local store. I'm going to add, about 3 teaspoons. This is going to give it a very warm, earthy feel. And it's not a lot of spice, but it's just a little bit different from what you're used to. That was about 3. And instead of using a mayonnaise, which is what most people would use, I'm using a Greek yogurt. It's very thick. It's got, yogurt has got an acidic taste to it, a little bit of that milky acidic taste. And that just kind of complements the earthiness of the curry powder. So I'm going to add a little bit of that in. And then to give it really something special, I'm going to use currants. Currants are a briarberry. You could grow them around here. A lot of y'all might be used to, maybe know currants, you maybe know gooseberries. They're very similar. Currants take about a year on a cane to produce, and I'm hoping to grow some next year. I've taken these that were out of a box. These weren't some that I did. They were dehydrated, of course, and I've added a little water to them, put them in the microwave for about 30 seconds, and that kind of helps them plump up. I don't like them to look dried and shriveled. I just don't think that looks good. So I'm pouring in my currants. I'm going to stir this in. Get it all mixed in. That was Greek yogurt, not regular yogurt, but Greek yogurt, which has a little bit higher acidic content, a little bit more carbs. But that's okay because we're cutting down on the salt and some of the other things. So I get that stirred in, and then I want to chill this for about 2 hours. So I'm going to set this aside. Now, if you're working on a party, it's graduation season, people getting married, a lot of things to celebrate spring in Appalachia. One of the things that Karen Webb taught me, she used to be a caterer here on Johns Creek, she said, anytime that you're getting ready to do sandwiches, go ahead and spread some soft butter. I'm using a croissant for my presentation a little later. But I'm going to get this ready for you so that you can see. And if you spread this soft butter, then if you're making up a whole lot of sandwiches for a party, your bread won't get soggy. So I'm going to butter that croissant up. And I'm going to leave it sitting there for a minute. I'm just going to move it to the front. Now, boiled eggs. Everybody knows them. What I've done is try to do a little bit of something that I know everybody would like. So I'm starting out with something really simple. Most people, when they make an egg salad or a deviled egg, they just use mayonnaise and a little bit of pickle juice. Well, I didn't want to do that. So I used Greek yogurt and a little bit of vinegar. And instead of putting a relish in it, I chopped up some of Mom's bread and butter pickles. So I've got the bread and butter pickles. It's going to give you a tartness and a sweetness, a little bit of sour, with some mustard seed on the top. And then I've added some dill. That's pretty standard. You know, Mama, she used to always use a little bit of paprika on the top. And that makes a really pretty presentation. This is smoked paprika from my friend Matt Jamie at Bourbon Barrel Foods, which gives it a little bit of pop. But, you know me, I can't stand to be just normal. So, you know, what about a little bit of bacon? Gosh, I think some bacon and dill, what about that? What if we cut up a couple of cherry tomatoes? Slice one of these real fast. You won't see me slice it, but that's all right. Put a little sliced cherry tomato on there. How pretty is that? And that speaks to spring. No money, very simple, but something very unexpected, but yet familiar. And that's kind of the fun part about deviled eggs. Now, deviled eggs are very popular in Louisville right now as a cocktail appetizer, as well as for parties. So they like to start with the cocktail appetizer. And they'll come out at St. Charles Exchange. They come out with this long plate, and it'll have 6 or 8 different deviled eggs on it. And part of the excitement of it is trying to figure out the flavors. I'm going to take a minute and shift set and show you some exciting new ways to do deviled eggs. So we've talked about deviled eggs today, and I showed you the traditional deviled eggs that your mama did. But now I'm going to show you something that's a little bit different. I like different, and I like fancy. And the folks down at St. Charles Exchange in Louisville kind of inspired me with this. And what I've done is I've taken a couple of boiled eggs, and I've soaked them overnight in beet juice, and so they're all red and so pretty. And what I'm going to do is stuff them with a little bit of eggs that I've already got mixed up. Now you could pipe this. You know, a lot of people get the fancy pastry bag out, they pipe it. It's just like, yeah, but I'm going to put a topping on this, so I think that this works easier for me. It's just the way I do things. So you got your egg stuffed. Kind of pretty, but kind of bland too. So what are we going to do with it? Well, there's 2 things. We could jazz it up with purslane. Purslane grows out in the fields. I don't know whether y'all can get this. This is really tiny. It's early in the season. If you think of a jade plant, for all you gardeners out there that like house plants, jade plants get really bulbous, really pithy, a lot of fleshiness to the leaves. Purslane, you'll find it in the sidewalks at Pikeville. You'll find it growing in your garden where you don't want it. It's got a taste like lemon. Oh, it's so good. So I'm going to throw a little green, because you got to have green to make it look pretty, right? So we're going to put a little of this purslane on there. And then we got to have a little bacon. Everything's better with bacon on it. Little crumples of bacon. But why stop there? Why not do something different? So I'm going to do these other ones. I'm going to do one way and one another, just to give you an idea. So they got the yellow. This was soaked in bread and butter pickle juice, and I added just a little bit of turmeric to give it some color. All natural flavors, no food coloring, nothing nasty in there. If you can't pronounce it, don't use it. So this is just eggs. So I'm going to do one of the yellow eggs that's been soaked in the turmeric, and I'm going to put it this way. And then I'm going to do something a little funky. I'm going to squeeze a little bit of lime. Make sure that when you squeeze your lime, you use your hands and try to catch those seeds. So I'm going to take a little bit of that lime, and I'm going to pour it right on top of there. Now that's going to give it some citrus. It's going to make it sparkle. You don't see that. Let me move that around. I'll make it sparkle with that little bit of zing. I'm going to add some jalapenos, because I love jalapeno peppers. Gives it a little bit of hotness. And then, because we're kind of going south of the border with a little bit of this Latino, we're going to add a little bit of cilantro. Now, some people don't like cilantro. Cilantro is, you either love it or you hate it. It's the same herb that makes coriander. which you use in baking, but this is really good. And in salsa, y'all have had cilantro before. So we got this little bit of south of the border one, and I'm going to replate these in a minute to make them really pretty. But then, you know, you don't always have to stuff deviled eggs. Let's dump that out of there. You don't always have to stuff deviled eggs with eggs. What about ham salad? What about chicken salad? Again, something easy that you could do on the fly. Easy entertaining. You can make these ahead of time and stick them in the refrigerator. Pop them out so that you've got them made, and you don't spend your time when there's a party going on. You don't spend your time in the kitchen. You spend your time with your guest. So let's do a little bit of pimento cheese, homemade pimento cheese. And Lord, you know, can't have cheese without bacon. Gotta have more bacon. So, back in a minute and we'll finish this up. So as we wrap up today, we've done deviled eggs and we've done the curried egg salad. Now this has chilled for about 2 hours. And what I like to do is, because it's ramp season, I'm going to spread a little bit of that ramp gooey on the apple. It's right there. And I'm going to layer some red sales lettuce, courtesy Miss Kathy Raymeyer from Mother of Hubbard. And I'm going to add a fresh cucumber cut. And I got a puzzlement for you. Do y'all know what these are? I didn't. You've heard of arugula. It's a bitter, like a lettuce, or you get kind of a lettuce green. It's grown usually in the early spring and in the late fall. It likes the cool weather. And if you let it go to seed, it sends up these flowers. And cooking with flowers and garnishing with flowers is a lot of fun. A lot of flowers are edible, and certainly arugula flowers are. So I'm going to kind of toss that right there. I'm going to move this around. I'm going to pop up some of this curried egg salad, simply made with just a little bit of Greek yogurt, some currants, and some curry powder. I'm going to flip this over. You can make these ahead of time, leave them in the refrigerator, just leave them lightly wrapped. Remember, we're adding the butter to the bread to keep it from getting soggy. We've got us some fancy, fancy, fancy deviled eggs. The secret to deviled eggs: bring your water to a boil, leave it, when it comes to a boil, take it off, leave it for 12 minutes, immediately plunge it in cold water, and you will have the best deviled eggs ever. It's been a real pleasure having season 1 with Friends Drift In. I'd like to thank the people at Pike TV for allowing me this opportunity, and I hope you enjoy the journey as much as I have. It's been a lot of fun. Eggs. It's what's for breakfast, it's what's for lunch, and it's what's for dinner. Doesn't get any better than that. I toast everybody in Appalachia with mint tea, no alcohol included this time. Y'all have a good day, and share the giggles from Friends Drift In.